Hi, my name is Adrienne Lofton. I am the Global Vice President of Integrated Marketing for Platforms and Ecosystems at Google, and you are tuned in to Tech Today.
Welcome back, everybody, to Rolling Out Tech Today. I'm Rashad Milligan. Today, we are joined by a very special guest all the way up in Google. We have Miss Adrienne Lofton. Adrienne, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. It's Monday morning, so I'm on the West Coast, and it's the perfect way to start the day. So I'm glad to be here.
Oh, man, that is just so flattering for us over here, Rolling Out. That you feel flattered to be here. Excuse me. Give me a second here to all right. Yes. But speaking of everything that you
You're
guys
on
have
mute.
go.
There you are.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here.
I got you now.
Okay. Just speaking of all the things that you have just going on at Google, when you talk about the entire concept of the Google phone and trying to win over phone users, mobile users in the years of, like with Drake's Text Go Green and kind of just the entire classes and things that comes with the Apple cult that is Apple, like just how do you deal with that of trying to convert people over to the Google phone?
It's such a good question and a power first question. I'll tell you, we talk about it quite constantly here at Google. So, Rashad, I've been at Google for just about 1 year. I think I hit 1 year a month or so ago. And one of the first conversations, thank you very much. One of the first conversations that we got into quite deeply with my organization and Nick Drake, who's our leader, is, how do we start to have the right conversation with current Android users who we want to keep inside of our ecosystem. We have a strong belief in driving equity and accessibility in everything we do. So you'll see Android talk about and love being an open platform. And that means, no matter what you need, no matter what app services you want to use, Android's got it, and we're proud of that. Apple is a closed ecosystem. And with intentionality, if you're an Android user, they're often closing you out of the experience so it does not feel seamless for an iPhone user. So some of the things we've been talking about is how do we step into culture and start to educate our consumers and iPhone consumers on what's really going on inside of the lack of seamlessness when you have communication. So if we just use real talk, if you have an iPhone and you have a friend that's an Android user, and you're in a group chat and the group chat is broken or something goes wrong or you can't see your emojis or the video is grainy or the photo's pixelated, what do? Too often, I won't even ask you that question. Too often, people blame the Android user. Android's messing up the group chat is a quote I have heard in my own personal life and in the world over and over again. And so the reality is some people will not move to Android because they think it's going to mess up their messaging experience. And inside of that technology, it's actually Apple's doing to ruin your experience. But in the past, we've never talked about those things because we've always, stuck to the features and benefits and the beauty of Android. And we haven't opened it up to a cultural conversation, like when Drake drops a text in a track called Text Go Green. And then the Twitter sphere blows up because they're blowing up Android again. And it's incorrect, that message. And so we launched a campaign, one of many, called Get the Message, where we leaned into culture. We had different celebrities like Kiki Palmer, Vanessa Hudgens, folks talking about the reality of their experiences on why it's iPhone that is the problem. And it is, I will tell you, it has been fun getting our brand into these kind of cultural conversations, being provocative on how we tell our stories, and pushing up against the edges of the conversation. So that's what my team has been all about. And there are so many examples like that are, new to P&E platforms and ecosystems, but not new to culture. And Apple has been in that conversation for many years. And my job as a leader of this team is to get us in that dialogue and to make sure every user of every iPhone knows that their experience should be better and it's Apple's fault, not Android. So there's all these little briefs and nuggets of insights that allow us to break in new conversations. It's just been a year of fun, if I'm honest, and the kind of conversations we can bring to the table.
No, I heard that, Adrian. And staying kind of on the silly side with that, with the culture and the Google phone and transitioning back to Android is like, excuse me, I don't know what's going on today. But you also have to think on like kind of the dating scene for men. Like, so it's like with men,
Yeah.
it's like a thing. If the woman's like, his texts are green, I can't talk to him. Like, there's a huge thing in the dating. Like, so like, you kind of hinted towards it with like the way that you guys are pitching it. But how do you kind of sell it to the, I guess you could say the woman, right? Because it kind of starts with them. Like the men are going to get iPhones just because when they give numbers, they don't want their text to go green when they're texting somebody else. Like, how do you
Yes.
pitch to the women continuously?
We have a several, I will say, dimensions in to this conversation, including women. There's been a lot of like spoofs that we've seen in the world around women who are breaking up with their boyfriends because they've got an Android phone. And if you really think about the core of the problem here, and I hate to get serious on a Monday, but there's bullying happening around the US because of the phone you're carrying. And so the first thing we're trying, and oh, by the way, it's not, and Rashad, you got to remember this to bring this to your peoples. It's not Android's fault. It's Apple's fault. And so for us, exactly. So we've done something quick here in this conversation. And for us, it is education, but using humor, real situations, folks like Kiki Palmer, who are so passionate about this conversation to be the representation of Android. We don't always have to do it through commercials. We could do it through social conversations. And so there are many ways in that we are working through and working on and launching in the world, including Kiki having a conversation with her followers about where this real problem lies. And girlfriends don't break up with your boyfriends, boyfriends don't break up with your girlfriends, girlfriends don't break up with your girlfriends. All of it, don't do the things that you think are happening in the world, because ultimately it's underpinned by bullying. And this is a society who is anti-bullying, yet we're allowing this to happen. And so our only objective is to open the conversation to truth, correct misinformation, and make sure that people understand that Android's about access and equity, period. And so this is, to me, and these are the kind of projects and challenges I love, and partly why I'm just so excited to be part of Google. Having these conversations aren't one and done. We're going to keep pushing the edges of culture, keep provocating on what needs to be true for the consumers to understand Android versus Apple. It should never be a versus. We should be two brands that work seamlessly together. And so the thing that I want to do every day is just educate. And so you and I have now had a moment. Now your friends will understand the problem and actually the solution. And that's the kind of fun we can have as marketeers and product builders inside of Google, because we're on the right side of this conversation. We're going to continue to push it forward.
And another idea before we head into all the serious stuff and the reason why you're here, but like you just do it in YouTube conspiracy video. Like, people love a good conspiracy. The man wants you. Steve Jobs has brainwashed you all. Once they see that, they're like, oh, I'm out of that. And I'm woke. Anyways, moving on.
And by the way, to your point, there are little things happening in the sphere that's causing a different kind of like a pause and do I really want to be locked in this ecosystem? Tim Cook was just quoted a couple of weeks ago by saying, somebody asked him, are Apple going to change the issue of not adopting? It's called RCS. RCS would allow Apple and Android users to text freely and have the same seamless experience. Every other OEM in the world has adopted RCS except for Apple. And so, and intentionally, right? Because they want to break that communication. They don't want it to be seamless. So someone in the audience, a reporter, asked him the question, are you going to adopt RCS? And Tim's response was, just go buy an iPhone. And by the way, the privilege of that statement is exactly what we're here to talk about. Everybody doesn't have the money or the desire to just go out and buy a new phone. And how dare we even ask that of a consumer? And so when you really start to see what's behind the wall of truth, you have to start asking yourself, what brands do I want to be a part of? And we just keep coming back to Google's helpfulness, Google's ability to be about access and equity. And that is the exact same truth value system of Android. And I actually think in the end, this thing is going to flip in the right direction as people start to be better informed on the truth. So it's fun, but also it can be heavy if you really think deeply about what's behind the problem.
No, for sure. You already sold me just in this first 5 minutes of the conversation. But Adrian, I just want to ask you, first things first, like we said already, congratulations for 1 year at Google. This 1 year at Google, how did Adrienne Lofton get to Google?
Man, that is, I think we only have 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to give you the, 50,000 foot view of how I got here, because I say that in that my journey has been long. I graduated from Howard University many moons ago. I will not entirely date myself, but I have been in the industry of marketing, cross multiple industries actually, for many, many years, many chapters. And so coming out of undergrad, I played volleyball in college. I've always been an athlete mindset. I always knew I wanted to get to sport. And so everything I did coming out of undergrad to getting to Under Armour and ultimately Nike was very intentional. I always thought about what are the industry experiences I need so that the sports industry would see me as attractive, a profile they'd want to recruit. So I spent time in retail and fashion, helping build international markets for Gap way back when that blue box was the most iconic thing that someone could have in their closets. You may or may not remember that. Now I'm still continuing to date myself. I then moved into the auto industry, and I did that not because I'm necessarily an auto fanatic, but because the way that industry builds narratives for consumers and drives breakthrough on share with such a high price point item, a car, that's art and science. So I spent years in Detroit. That's where I actually met Munson, the head of Rolling Out, who is a wonderful human and friend, but I met him 15 years ago at General Motors. And from there went to Target. And I went to Target because I wanted to understand how to speak to specific consumers. So Target is all about she's and hers. And they were launching a multicultural division. And between GM and Target, I spent many years in multicultural, which at some point back then was a buzzword because they didn't know what it should really mean. And what we were able to do at Target is build definition and truth to what it is to be a truly inclusive brand. And so I was able to do things like bring in multicultural hair products. So when I go down the racetrack at Target and I see Kinky Curly and Miss Jessie's and Mixed Chicks, that's stuff we brought in my era. And just being able to see women see themselves was everything for me. And then finally sport came knocking, and the founder of Under Armour, a guy named Kevin Plank, hired me to launch women's. And from women's, I moved across all categories and just was the definition of what I knew and loved all my life, which was sport. And then finally, that thing I thought I wanted for 20 years came knocking, which is leading North America at Nike, which, that is the geography at, some may say the apex of sport. And so I literally, Rashad, thought I was gonna retire at Nike and, keep moving up the ladder, God willing, and keep finding success. And then Google called. And when you ask that question, it's a long way to answer. Did I see myself at tech and how did I get here? I actually did not write out. I'm very meaningful and planful in my career. I've always written out the experiences I wanted. There was one experience, which is a massive one, which is working directly in technology, that I think I said to myself, a little bit of an imposter syndrome, like I'm too far down in my career to just switch everything now and go to a new industry. Maybe it's just not for me. And I worked indirectly with Google, Facebook, all the big tech companies, because you must in any industry. And, I enjoyed my experiences, but I didn't think I'd work for Google because I thought it was too late. I met a woman, and everybody should look her up if you don't know her. Her name is Lorraine Tohill. She is the CMO of basically all of Alphabet. And my boss, Nick Drake, who is the head of platforms and ecosystems. These two humans, first of all, reminded me that learning should never stop. And the nervousness of something completely new, which is how I got to where I was once I got to Nike, is exactly the gut feel you should always drive to have. And I started thinking maybe tech is for me 20 years later. And when I thought about the world impact Google brings and what I could deliver in consumer impact in a space this macro, this massively important to the world, there was no other choice than, yes, jumping out of my comfort zone, that was sport, moving into a space that has been completely new in tech, but bringing consumer and culture into tech and learning day in and day out from these incredibly smart humans that work in and outside of Google, but also bringing a different way of thinking about marketing, storytelling, brand strategy, brand positioning. And it has been just the gift that I did not see coming. So when I think about Black women in tech, there are so few of us. The ability to be here and hopefully make a mark so that so many more can follow is the other reason why I thought now is the right time to do it.
And Adrian, your story is so inspirational on so many levels there when you kind of just, zip through, gave the short version of it. Like, I guess my question is next in this kind of simulation called life, in this short experience that we all know kind of how it's going to end and stuff like that. What do you want to tell the person that is hesitant, that was hesitant like you were, to change their direction, their path, or kind of reinvent themselves? What do you want to tell that person?
Yeah, first of all, I think reinvention is the name of the game. And I have built a career on being comfortable, being uncomfortable, moving into, because even when I knew I wanted to land and end and retire in sport, I was always moving to new areas, building a digital platform for the organization, thinking about visual merchandising, moving to marketing operations, doing all these different sub-functional areas of expertise to be a better business leader and marketeer. So the first thing I'd say is never count yourself out. You are always exactly where you need to be. And then when you're there, I always think about be where your feet are, be in the space that you're in to be your absolute best self, but also think about what's next to push you and to grow you. And technology needs more us. I mean, Sundar, the world would say it. Lorraine says it constantly. Diversity in the room is how you build the best possible product, the best possible brand, the best possible company that consumers deserve. And so the ability for us to see ourselves in these halls is how Google is going to become a better Google, as we go year in and year out. So I would tell Black women, Black men, brown women, like, it is for you. And the only thing that may hold us back sometimes is us not believing that we deserve to be in the room. So, we'll talk about, like, for me, I think about the grit it takes to keep showing up, keep pushing forward. But the value you bring in this room is indescribable. And we can never forget that.
When is the book coming out?
The books I read are always about, not the book I'm writing. Let me be clear.
We need the book. The world needs the book. The world needs the book. They sold me on switching from iPhone to Google Pick in the first 5 minutes. The next 10 minutes, I'm like, man, anything in life is possible. I could change the trajectory of my life. I could wake up 50, don't matter how old I could change. All right, anyway.
That's right.
I do want to ask you, touch a little bit on sports in the last couple minutes that we have here available. There's a lot of athletes who struggle after college because, you work so hard to get a Division I college scholarship. You played at the Division I level. And then it's like, I don't know myself outside of this.
Yeah.
What do you tell that 22-year-old?
Man, I mean, the first thing I would say is, while you're in school, if we get to talk to any folks still in school as student athletes, never forget that, like, the last thing you ever want to be in life, and you could be, by the way, not just in sport, but the last thing we ever want to be is one-dimensional. And so remember what we learned, and going to Howard was great because we were college student athletes, but we were also expected to shine in the classroom, in community service, and everything that we did. And so I would say use the moments that you have as a student athlete to find any experience possible to add to your toolkit of greatness, right? And then when you get out of school, I actually believe, and I'm biased to this because I'm one of them, athletes have a unique kind of profile because we are competitors by nature. We are team sport. If you're a team sport athlete, like, I live by the team. I die by the team. My team are my sisters to this day. And so when I look at the teams I get to build or the teams I have been a part of, I see the person to the left and the right as important as I see myself. And so you're able actually to team and build amazing work together. People want to be in your space because you do things as someone who's thinking not selfishly. And then I just think our ability and aptitude to learn and to take on new challenges and just chunk it out and continue to grow and develop is something, if you can flip the mindset, because it is a mindset flip from the court and the field to the, boardroom or to corporate world, not just corporate America, it will do you good. But you just have to know that everything in life comes in chapters. The chapter to compete, love it, live it, be in it. But when it's time to move into the next level of competition, don't lose the fervor that you have. Just apply it to the world that you see, whether you become a professional, an entrepreneur, a maker, whatever you want to become, just be your 110% self, because that's how we're raised to be as athletes.
Right, correct. That I have no clue. This is kind of like a blindfolded question for you. So, have you been kind of keeping up at least from a distance, or know about the Woodard twins, the current twins over there at Howard right now on the volleyball team?
You did not precede me with this
I know,
question,
I know, I know, I know, I know.
but you should.
Okay, go ahead.
No, Rashad, no. Let me tell you two things. One, the two twins, or the twins, the set of twins that are an outside and a middle at Howard right now, gave me a call before they joined the school. They're from Houston. I'm from Houston. And so I still lightly mentor the athletes as much as I can. And so we talked before they joined Howard's campus, and I have a god baby who's on her way to Howard to be a setter next year. So we this is generational. Like, what my team, and this was not supposed to be a volleyball podcast, but what our team did was break records at Howard before Black colleges were seen as volleyball competitive. We would go to predominantly white universities and win in order to put our school and our sport on the map, so that the twins can be and do exactly what they're doing 15 years later. And so I take such great pride in the school and the team that I played on and with, and the young up and coming women that we get to watch and cheer on are just as much breaking history as we were able to. So I don't know how you know the twins, but they are bosses, and I am very proud of them.
I do that a lot in interviews, where I kind of just throw darts in the dark, and a lot of times it doesn't work out. They're like, I don't know who that is, and I'm like,
I'm good.
I apologize. Next question. Simone, Manuel, you guys follow each other on social media. I wanted to know, like, what are kind of your interactions been like with her? You say you're from Houston. She's from Houston. I believe she's with Nike, and just how is that relationship, and if there is any?
Well, let me tell you this on the athlete front. Simone Manuel is just an incredible human. We got to have dinner together, spend some time together in LA as I was running North America at Nike marketing, but also spent time after I left Nike to be with Google, because just good people convene. And her ability to represent Black women in the pool, to be an advocate for swimming, because we are not, Black folks and swimming sometimes do not go together, and it is about life or death sometimes. So the ability to know how to swim, the basics, and how she steps into communities to push that point of view. She is the real deal. And what has been just a blessing for me and my career is, I've gotten to spend time with Simone. I've gotten to spend time with Steph Curry, with Cam Newton, who is an Atlantean, who is one of my favorite, not just football players, but creators. So if you think about that transition from sport to life, and you think about Simone or Steph or Cam or Misty Copeland, people who are preeminent in what they do, but they translate that to the boardroom, to creation, making, they are inspirational in so many more ways than their athletic prowess. And so I always look and hope that people get to see the bigness and the fullness of athletes, of celebrity, because with the ones at least I've been able to spend a lot of time with, there's so much more. And Simone is just one of that example.
Well, Adrian, like we already mentioned earlier, you are an inspiration to so many young Black women and young Black boys, and just everybody across the world and stuff, in our community specifically, for all that you've been able to accomplish. We look forward to seeing the book. We look forward to seeing the book, the movie, the documentary. We're gonna speak that into existence as well.
There we go.
Thank you so much for stopping by. You are truly a sisters with superpowers. You are truly a powerful space in the technology today space and everything like that. And thank you for stopping by, Rolling Out.
Thank you for doing this, for having me. I told Munson, you guys did a feature on me, I think 15 years ago, when I was at General Motors working on multicultural, just coming up. I was an assistant media planner. And the fact that Rolling Out and Tech Today is able to look out across the playing field and identify folks like me, young, coming up, that helped inspire me to keep pushing. And so I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for Munson and everything you do, because we need spaces where we can not just feel safe, but feel empowered. And you do that day in and day out. And for that, I'm thankful.
Ashe, and forward us any other young names that you want to give to us in this space, because we need them and we want to highlight all of them.
I'd love it.
Until next time, you all take care of yourselves. I'm Rashad Milligan. Protect today. Adrienne Lofton. And yeah, that's it. Take care of yourselves. Be safe.